My name is Hank Wilson, and I have anger issues. This group counseling session was a court requirement. I'm 35 years old, married with 3 children, 2 boys and a girl, and I love them to death. Jeff, the assigned group counselor, asked me, "Why did the court make you come here today, Hank?" "Well, Jeff, it's a long story." "Well, Hank, we're all here for another 3 hours. Your story will take as long as you need," Jeff said. I cleared my throat and began to tell my story. I won't go into the details of how I met my wife, but I'll tell you her name is Amanda, and there was a time when I considered her the most attractive woman in the world. It all started because I attended a bachelor party. My brother was getting married, and we sent him off in style. We invited women. I told Amanda every detail. I didn't want anything coming back to me. The party was amazing. It started around 3 o'clock p.m. on Saturday and ended on Sunday at 7 o'clock p.m. It only ended when the police came into the room because of the noise. Throughout the party, I talked to Amanda at least 12 times. My brother got married and they went on their honeymoon. About 3 months after the party, life returned to normal, or so I thought. I came home from work, went to the bathroom, and took a long shower. I'm a fisherman by profession, but I like working at the docks. We hang out, talk nonsense, and work. I had just stepped out of the shower when everything around me went dark. It felt like a truck had hit me. But how did it get into my bathroom? I tried to stand up, but for some reason I couldn't move. I looked around and everything was blurry. All I could make out were 2 figures in front of me. When my eyes focused, it was my wife and her sister. "So you cheated on me," Amanda said. "What's wrong with you?" I tried to stand up and finally noticed that I was taped to a chair. And when I say taped, I mean it was wrapped around my ankles at least 20 times. I couldn't move an inch. "Let me go right now." "I'll do that after I settle the score with you," Amanda said. Settle the score? What was she talking about? I hadn't done anything wrong. My brother and I made sure we didn't break any of the established rules. They both left, and I must have sat there for an hour before they came back. Amanda entered, accompanied by 5 guys from the bachelor party. I looked up and told them to release me. Mark has always been one of my oldest friends. I've known him for over 20 years. He was my best man, and I named my son in his honor. His wife was the only woman in the world, aside from my own wife, whom I genuinely trusted. Mark leaned in, looked me straight in the eyes, and said, "Hank, you shouldn't have cheated on Amanda." Before I could respond, Amanda shoved a cloth into my mouth. He knew I had never cheated on Amanda. Needless to say, they slept in the next room while I sat with a cloth in my mouth, listening to those sounds. Sharing a room with the other guys from the bachelor party, Mark said, "Unfortunately, we didn't record it." I just sat there unmoving until one of the other guys removed the cloth. I clenched my jaw and simply looked at them. Mark approached and said, "She always attracted me. I always wanted her. I just couldn't pass up this chance. I know we won't be friends after this, but I just had to do it." I said nothing, just looked at him and smiled. Mark said, "Hank, let it go, because if you don't, someone will get hurt." Then he hit me in the face with something, and I woke up in the hospital a couple of hours later. I looked around and saw Amanda sitting in a chair. She must have dozed off, so I got the attention of the nurses. "Could you call the police for me, please?" The nurse was about to ask why when I showed her my wrists. She said she would be back. She returned about 5 minutes later and said the police would come. When the police arrived, Amanda finally woke up. I said, "My name is Hank Wilson. About 7 hours ago, my wife ordered several men to tie me up and engage in group infidelity in front of me because she thought I cheated on her." The only problem, besides proving what she's really like, is that I never cheated. I can give you the name of every person there. I'm sure 2 of those guys are cops. So if you're not going to do your job, leave now, and when I get out, I'll be contacting the state prosecutor. The officer said, "Sir, just tell us what happened." I told him everything about the party and how I was tied up. Amanda just sat there, mouth agape. I told the officer that the party was recorded to ensure no man got into trouble. I also told him that if any of the guys engaged in any intimate activity with a woman, it would be visible on the footage. The officer approached Amanda and asked her to stand up. "Ma'am, you have the right to remain silent." She was charged with assault and kidnapping. I named every guy who was there with Amanda in my house. I thought to myself it was time to inflict pain. Pain had been inflicted on me, and now it was time to cause pain to everyone involved. When they were taking Amanda away, she looked back and told me, "It isn't the end." "You're a liar, Hank, and I'll make you pay," she said. The officer informed her that she was also charged with making threats. I spent a week in the hospital and devised a plan to ease the pain. I had a lot of thoughts that needed organizing. Many people could be affected, so I had to be sure I really wanted to settle the score. They could take my wife, and besides, I was in the hospital. I would settle the score even if it killed me. It would be what I had planned. The following week, I stayed in the hospital making plans. I left the hospital and went to the bank. I withdrew $50,000. And while I was there, the cashier informed me that my wife had tried to withdraw money. She got angry when she found out her name wasn't on any of my accounts. Then she returned with her lawyer, and they were told that even with a lawyer, her name wasn't on any of the accounts. They left in a rage. I headed straight to my brother and asked if he knew a good lawyer. He got angry at me and asked how I could have our friends arrested. When I turned to leave, he ran out and stopped me. "Hank, what's going on?" Over the next hour, I told him and his wife everything that happened. They sat there with wide eyes and open mouths. When I finished, his wife looked at me and called me a liar. My brother told her that I never lie and she should stay away from this. She told him he knew nothing and should shut up. He asked her what was wrong with her. If she was on that woman's side, then she could leave. "This is my brother," he said. She looked at him, stood up, and left. She went into their bedroom, took her purse, and told him she was leaving. My brother looked her in the eyes and told her to let him clarify something for her. "If you get involved in this and aren't on my brother's side, then let me know. We can annul this marriage because you're either with us or you're not." She looked at him and walked out the door. We heard the car start, the door open, and she came in, dropping her wedding ring on the floor. My brother said, "So be it then." She turned and left. The first thing we both did was go to the lawyer. We put my plan into action. Friday, the day started off great. At 9:00 a.m., my realtor hung a "for sale" sign in my front yard just as Amanda was leaving for work. Amanda jumped out of her car and asked, "What are you doing?" The realtor showed her that the owner was putting the house up for sale. Amanda yelled that he couldn't do that. Of course he could. It's his house. At work, Amanda's boss came in with a young guy and said he was looking for her. The guy asked if she was Amanda Wilson. Amanda said yes. He handed her a large brown envelope and said, "You've been served." Later that same day, I received no fewer than 50 phone calls. 5 wives asked what was happening, and I told each of them the whole story. I didn't miss a detail. I got no fewer than 30 death threats, each of which I recorded. While they ranted, I laughed my head off, and it seemed to infuriate them even more. One thing I'll never understand is when you sleep with someone's wife and beat him up, why wouldn't you think he's going to settle the score? The next day, my lawyer delivered 5 sets of civil lawsuits. I asked for $5 million each. I sued Amanda for bodily harm and theft of private property. My brother grunted along with me, having had several clashes with our so-called friends and family. The day of the trial for the assault charges was approaching. My brother's wife wanted to talk, but she made her choice, and he made his. As I was leaving work a day before the trial, Mark came out from behind a car and tried to attack me. I pulled out my .38 caliber and shot him in the balls, accidentally, of course. When the police arrived, he was yelling that I tried to kill him. I told the cops what happened, and if they didn't believe me, they could check the surveillance camera footage. Mark started looking around and saw cameras everywhere. "Mark, you're such a donkey. But don't worry, they can reattach your balls. But if they can't, we know who will be the woman in prison." "A guy without balls in prison, buddy, you'll be very popular," I said. The officer returned with the surveillance footage and asked to see my gun permit. I pulled it out and showed him. The officer said I could go. The trial was a failure. The bachelor party recording not only showed that I never cheated, but also that I called Amanda every few hours. Mark and Amanda decided to face the court together. She was just sure they would come out clean and unharmed. The judge asked Amanda who told her I cheated, and she said Mark. Mark's lawyer said it was a lie. He said Amanda was a traitor and always wanted Mark to sleep with her. Amanda sat in the defendant's seat with her mouth open. Her lawyer shouted, "I object," and requested a recess. Mark's lawyer approached me and asked if I could talk to him for a minute. "Hank, I know you hate her now, but can you just let her burn in the fire?" "Why should I help her? They tied me up and put me in the hospital. Now you want me to help her?" "I could have died," I said, walking away. Amanda asked if she could talk to me for a second. "Hey, Hank, I'm sorry. I know I messed up. I was just so angry. I never thought he could set me up. Drop it, Hank. You know you still love me. Somewhere deep down you love me. So please set aside your pride and help me. Amanda, you caused me pain. I mean, you really caused me pain. But still, I'm going against my better judgment, and I'll ask the district attorney to go easy on you," I said, leaving to have a chat with the district attorney. I smiled, approached the district attorney, and leaned into his ear. "Fry her, please." I looked at Amanda and gestured with raised thumbs. I helped her as much as she helped me when I was tied up and beaten. Now you need my help. Amanda was sentenced to 8 years in prison. Mark was sentenced to 25 years in prison. When the other guys found out about the prison terms, they all wanted to make deals. Mark's wife, Karen, approached me after his sentence was announced. "Hank, I know he caused you pain and ruined your marriage, but did you really have to do this to us? Karen, I know it hurts you, but they tied me up. Your husband hit me so hard that I had to spend a week in the hospital. They and Amanda left me there bleeding. I did what needed to be done. I wanted to kill them all. At least you have something to look forward to. Someday he'll get out, and you can move on with him. But I lost my wife, my friends, and some family members. So who suffered more?" I turned and walked away. You might think the story ends here, but it doesn't. I attend anger management sessions because of this. While Mark was in jail awaiting transfer to a state prison to serve his sentence, I got arrested for drunk driving. Serving my 10 days, I got back at him as many times as I could. I hit him in the face when we were in the break room. I hit him with a metal tray. I kicked him in what was left of his balls. I stood before a judge who fined me $500 and added extra time to my sentence. Later on, I managed to settle the score with all these people. 2 of them were attacked during a brawl in a bar. While the cops were on their way, someone happened to have a stun gun. They both got over 1,000 volts to the nuts. The last two were beaten by four guys in masks. Interestingly, at that time, I was in Texas visiting my cousin. So now I'm sitting here and chatting nonsense with you guys because the judge thinks I have anger issues. They all sat there for a minute, then started applauding. Jeff stood up and said, "Hank, you need to learn to go with the flow and not seek revenge." Then he looked at me and shook my hand. "Hank, you don't need to worry about losing money in the divorce. Mark and the others are in jail. What else could you wish for?" Jeff said nothing. I replied, "Not a single thing." During further discussion, I learned they got off relatively easy. My brother's wife came back home and is doing everything to make him forgive her. Amanda was her best friend, so I told my brother to at least give it a try. I made him understand that she chose our side because she could have told Amanda about what we had planned, but she didn't. Karen's divorce from Mark was now final, and she invited me for a date to discuss what Mark asked her to do. Apparently, Mark is having problems in prison and wants her to kill me so that he can demand a new trial. So she told him about her revenge plan. "Mark, I promise you that Hank will pay. I'll do it slowly and for a long time. He will look me in the eyes and understand how upset I was about what happened." Mark was a very happy man, and Karen was right. I looked into her eyes when she brought me to the second peak. I saw nothing but love. Amanda writes to me every week asking me to come and talk to her. She knows she was wrong. She was just so angry. She even went to a group to talk about her issues. I know how it feels. How do I feel now? Humming very well. I am sure everything will be fine with me. I am heartless and everything else, but in the end, this is my story. I don't think all scammers should be burned alive, but I also don't think you should sit, endure, and be a doormat.